my beard.
I know, I've been growing out this mustache for a while now.
Something about the mustache that I miss. Welcome back to Morning Wood. We missed you guys.
Yes.
As always, I'm Jason. I'm here with Matt. We are idiots. We talk about sports. We talk about football. And we have not a special episode, but we're kind of switching things up a little bit. Before we get started, I did want to mention we're switching up the posting schedule a little bit for the full episodes. We will have one episode per week that will now be posted on Wednesdays. Today, we will recap the previous week, and we'll talk about the upcoming week all in one episode. We will have segments posted from this episode on YouTube throughout the week. Works out better for us as far as scheduling and stuff. So that's how it's going to roll for the rest of the season. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we're taking Tuesday's episode and Thursday's episode and combining them.
They're touching tips now. But I will start off like we always do. The top of the morning news. Not too much going on. Some like two big things and then not really anything else going on. The Jets. They're just on fire right now. They fired their general manager, Joe Douglas. Not too sure why. I think he did a pretty good job of getting personnel in the building. Obviously didn't come together on paper, but on paper this team actually looks good. It was the execution part that didn't happen. So, but they said just burn the ships. Everyone's getting out of here. So they fired Joe Douglas. And then Danny freaking Dimes has been benched for Tommy the Italian Stallion DeVito will be starting quarterback for the New York Football Giants.
Crazy.
Nice.
Hit on the Jets. I'm not sure why they fired Joe, because a GM's job is really to acquire talent in some ways, like, to get guys in the building, like you said, create a good roster. On paper, they did that, and he did that. Draft wise, they had a good draft when they got, Hall and
guys like Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, they got Sauce and Hall in the same draft.
Good young guys.
Like, they have talent. I don't know why. Like, they fired originally the head coach, which I didn't even think was doing that bad of a job, and who knows how to coach a defense. And then they fired the guy who got all of the talent pretty much in the building. And they have to understand that the problems with the Jets are coaching related and development related and game plan related and during the game related.
Football related.
Yeah, it's more so hands on, not as much as the GM. So I don't know why they're doing that. And then Danny Dimes getting benched is hilarious after they paid him $1 bazillion. Like I said, that guy should be doing life in prison for stealing that much money. I think that's a reasonable, outcome for that. Kind of crazy that we went from
Giants things.
Coach of the Year and a new contract for the Giants like a couple years ago to now probably going to get fired, and Danny Dimes going to be at 10 here soon. So
he's at 10.
But that's top of the morning. Very short, quick to the point. Top of the morning. Let's move on to the Antonio Brown. I already missed doing this on Thursday, but we're gonna get to the best segment on the internet. We're gonna get Antonio Brown tweet of the day. Roll the clip.
Kicks him in. Antonio Brown.
Go on social media, man. This is about us. Nobody else, man.
It is a video. I'm choosing a video, so if you need to watch it, you got to look it up, which is okay. But I'm choosing Chris Collinsworth. This was tweeted a couple days ago. But Chris Collinsworth watching Patrick Mahomes in his hotel room right now. This is an amazing tweet. But I want to talk about – the reason I chose it is because I need to talk about Chris Collinsworth. Okay, I tweeted this like a month ago. And I said, the day I get to watch Sunday Night Football and I do not have to hear Chris Collinsworth's voice, I actually might break down into tears. I cannot wait until that day because I'm so sick of this, and like I can't take it anymore. I've listened to him for my whole life, it feels like, and I'm over it. He's one of the worst in the booth in any sport, and I'm over it. So that's why I chose this tweet. This tweet is hilarious because anytime Patrick Mahomes plays Chris Collinsworth, this is exactly what happens, actually. This is a live example of what's going on in the booth. So that's why I chose that. That's my Antonio Brown tweet of the day, and
Freaking Chris.
that's our...
What a guy.
I hate that guy. I can't wait. I'm serious. Like the first Sunday Night Football game that I watch that he's not doing, I will actually cry. Like I will have an emotional breakdown. It will be like me watching Avengers Endgame all over again.
I like that.
Let's move on. Let's recap. So we didn't get Thursday's episode last week. We had a lot of stuff, a lot of busy stuff going on, so we couldn't get to the episode. So we're gonna recap the games, but we don't have our pick results because we didn't make the picks. But we're still gonna break the games down a little bit. And I'll start off. The Eagles. The Eagles are looking good here, Jason. They're looking good. They are looking good. They get a huge divisional win. They go 9 for 16 on the money, Dan, on third down. This was Thursday night, right? This game? Last Thursday?
Yes.
Yes. This was last Thursday. They go 9 for 16 on the money down. And Saquon Barkley said, listen, guys, the game's almost closed out. Let me call in the closer. Like Mariano Rivera, this guy in the fourth quarter, I think he scores 2 touchdowns pretty quickly. He breaks off some big runs. He closed the game out. He took, he put the team on his back a little bit. The Eagles, off the bye week they had in week 5, have won 6 in a row now. That's very impressive. They started out 2-2. They're now 8-2. And that offense, like we said months ago, when they finally got healthy, they got Brown back, they got Smith back. The offense is humming. And to be honest, with Nick Sirianni as head coach, them going to 8-2 is probably the most impressive thing in the NFL because I hate that guy. And they're doing it on all, aspects of the game right now. The Commanders, on the other hand, they fall to 2 in now their second game in a row. They should have beat us, really. Like, that was a close game. That could have went either way. But losing to Philly in a big divisional game, not great. But I was going to ask, but I'll give my input. I'm not worried about the Commanders. I think they get a win this week. They're huge favorites on Sunday, and I think they are still a well-coached team. But I was going to ask you, do you think it's a little bit of a panic for the Commanders losing 2 in a row, or you think it's just like, big division game, and they played a good team?
I don't think it's a panic because the Commanders didn't have any expectations coming into the season to be this good. Like, they're already exceeding expectations. Obviously, they want to win a Super Bowl. That's what everyone wants to do. But I just don't think they're on the level of, like, it's like the Lions and the Eagles, and then it's everyone else in the NFC, it feels like. But I'm not, like, super worried about the Commanders. I think they'll be fine. I know their record versus, like, above 500 or below 500 is, like, really lopsided. But other than that, I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah. I think it was just because a lot of people were saying, well, they haven't beat anybody. But they should have beat us, a pretty good team in the AFC. I would say, obviously, a playoff team. And then, honestly, they were in that game. They went for it on fourth down late in that game, like 4th and 2 in field goal range. And I think that was kind of what blew the brakes off that game. If they don't do that, if they kick the field goal, I think they either take the lead or it's like 1-point game. Yeah. I think it looks a little bit different. So I think just them losing to us and then Philly, I think it kind of looks bad as far as like the narrative all season, but I'm not worried about them at all. I think they're a good coach team.
Yeah. So the Bears, they lose 4 straight after you obviously said a couple weeks ago that they'd win 2 games for the rest of the season. They haven't won any so far.
I'm looking like I overpraised them.
The Bears are just the Bears. I mean, they lose on a blocked field goal in the most Bears way possible. The offense looked better. After first game with the new OC after firing, I can't remember his name, Shane something. But 400 yards of offense for the Bears, but that's all overshadowed by the blocked field goal at the end of the game. Packers didn't look great. I mean, they got the win in a tough division rivalry game, but Bears are Bears.
Yeah, I feel like most of these NFC North games are going to look like this, where it's very close and kind of gritty. They're all pretty good teams. But like I said a couple weeks ago, the Bears were not what they thought they were. A lot of the fans talking a lot of noise. Y'all haven't done nothing since '85. So let's pump the brakes on that. But yeah, I haven't been too high on the Packers. They kind of get these wins where it's like it's just
They have
ugly.
a lot of close wins.
It's ugly, but they have good players and they got a good coaching staff. But a blocked field goal is like the Bears in a 4-week stretch have lost off of a Hail Mary tipped pass and a blocked field goal.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
The Bears.
Let's move on. Let's talk about another division team, a bit of a wagon. We now know everybody's on board. I'm going to keep it short. I have just the Lions are a wagon. That's what they are. If you're in the way of it, that's unfortunate. You better get out of the way. They destroyed Jacksonville 52-6. Goff gets back to doing Goff type things because when we put money on him, he throws like 8 interceptions in the game. But when we don't, 412 yards and 4 touchdowns, baby. So that's guaranteed. 645 total yards of offense. And they didn't punt. So, yeah, the Lions are a wagon.
I just love Dan Campbell so much. Like, I look forward to seeing his post-game speech to the guys in the locker room. Like, that shit gets me fired up every week. It's just amazing. If the Ravens don't win the Super Bowl, I want it to be the Lions.
I'm a closet Lions fan. Like I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. Like if the Steelers aren't playing, I'm either watching or rooting for the Lions.
I agree.
So
the Dolphins, they've won 2 in a row, keeping their season alive. Tua, I guess, had a good game. They beat the sorry ass Raiders by 25. This team, I think they like are kind of mid. I don't like Mike McDaniels as a coach, honestly. And I think they missed the playoffs. I don't think this Miami team has what it takes. The Bills are going to win that division, and I don't think they make the wild card. But Miami's won 2 in a row, so congrats to you guys.
Very weird team. Another team that when they win, kind of like Philly, like I don't like their head coach, so it's just like yeah, they win, but like I don't like them.
No.
Like because they're coached by weirdos. So,
Dude.
But good for them. They won 2 in a row. That's awesome.
Congrats.
Let's talk about another team that's won like a lot recently after starting the season. Not very good at all. Is the Rams. And just like Jared Goff, when I put money on Matt Stafford, he starts throwing the ball with his left hand. But when I don't, he throws 4 touchdowns and puts the team on his back. They seal the game off of a huge interception, a pretty terrible interception. Drake May, he's been playing pretty well all season, I would say, all things considered. But that one interception late in the game, it looked like 4 verts and against too high. And nobody was ready for the ball on offense. Like if you watch the replay of that game sealing interception, like the receiver wasn't even looking for the ball. So maybe miscommunication, but just to, obviously kudos to the Rams. When they are healthy, they are well coached. Sean McVay knows what he's doing. And that division is weird. We could talk about more throughout the game recaps, but the NFC West is very strange.
It is.
But to hit on Drake May, again, overall, all things considered, he's not looked bad. I think the Patriots should be excited for the future. I think if they could build around him, he's got sneaky athleticism, kind of like almost like an Andrew Luck sneaky, not as talented or anything, but just he can run if needed. He does make some good plays, and overall, I've liked what I've seen. Again, it's not in the win-loss department for the Patriots, but just overall, as far as like a young quarterback making plays, I think they should be, I think the future is a little bit brighter than they might think.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the weapons he has like at his disposal. Like he doesn't really have he has like a bottom tier roster as far as weapons too, and he's making some plays. So.
And a
new
coach.
What I've seen from Drake May.
Yeah.
The Ravens are their own worst enemy. Like I've said it like every time they lose on this podcast. Like stupid mistakes, penalties, turnovers. I mean, I think we had like 1 million penalties that game. I don't even know.
It was a lot.
Outgained the Steelers in total offense. Gifted them 6 points on fumbles. Tucker missed 2 field goals. That's 12-point swing. It was a 2-point game. Our defense finally showed up and played well for once and didn't get up a touchdown, and we just can't win. So same old stuff against the Steelers, and then it's going to happen in the playoffs, and the Ravens are not a complete team. We're going to choke against someone in the AFC early on, probably.
That's crazy. Oh man, I don't know. It was a very weird game. I feel like for both quarterbacks, it was very strange, like to not see multiple touchdown passes or anything. Obviously, we were horrible in the red zone. I think we kicked like 3 field goals within like the 15-yard line, which is horrible. Obviously, y'all played well in the red zone, but we had a couple of, like the interception, overthrowing a 6-7 tight end, just lofting it up there for grabs was very strange. We had another third down in the red zone where it's 3rd and 6, and we decided to throw a 4-yard out route that was incomplete. Even if he caught it, I don't think he gets it. So I don't know if that was bad play calling and execution or good defensive play or a mix of both. It probably was a mix of both. You guys played well, and we just did not execute in the red zone. So we kick what felt like 15 field goals and win. And I guess that's good. Obviously, it's a division game at home. We needed to win. And we are like the only team that y'all can't beat in the last however many years Lamar's been there. Because every time I watch y'all in the regular season, you guys destroy everybody. And then when you guys play us, you guys like forget how to play football.
We lose to the Raiders and the Browns.
Well, I meant like consistently. But I think our record with like against Lamar is pretty good overall. So I don't know. I never understand why that is. But we win, and I don't know. You guys got a big game coming up. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But hey, Steelers get the division win. We got another one coming up soon, I think, in a couple of weeks. So we'll see if it changes in Baltimore. See if we split on that.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's talk about another team that's, I don't really know what they are, but the Vikings get a much-needed win on the road. And I say it's a much-needed because not their record's bad or anything, but they just haven't looked good. They haven't looked good in the last 5 weeks. They went back-to-back losses against the Lions and the Rams. And then in this win stretch that they've had after losing back-to-back, and everyone was kind of like, uh-oh, are the wheels falling off? I asked Jason if the miracle run was over, no overreaction. But they then go ahead and beat the Colts, the Jags, and the Titans. Not great teams, by a total of 23 points, which is barely over a touchdown a game. Now, from what this team was to start the season to now, that is not the point differential you want to see. Obviously, wins are wins, but they just haven't looked good. If you're not a Vikings fan, obviously Viking fans might be happy, but if you're just kind of on the outside looking in, the Vikings have not looked great, and it's been primarily because of Sam Darnold's play. I think defensively and personnel throughout, the team, and then obviously the coaching staff, they're still a very good team. They have one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, but again, they haven't had a good win. They haven't looked like the Lions. They haven't looked like the Eagles in some of these wins. And in the NFC, they haven't even looked like some of the Commanders' wins, that they've had, even though the Commanders have lost 2 in a row. But there's been some other teams in the NFC that have looked more convincingly better than the Vikings. But on the other hand, the Titans, I always say it, but your sleeper team, they fall to 2-8. And I'm going to ask because it was your sleeper team, but I know Will Levis is young. I know they have a young team. They don't have a lot of talent, but should the Titans be worried at 2-8? Like you said, I think they had a decent year last year. It looked like they were improving, but what are your thoughts on the Titans?
Yeah,
Maybe even
it's weird. I mean, they've had Mason Rudolph starting for the past I think this was Will Levis's first game back. And
yeah, it was
Mason Rudolph. I mean, he looked okay, I guess. They didn't win any games, but I think they were in most of those games. I definitely think they should be worried for the future. I don't think they have anyone really to this guy's the future of our organization. I don't know if Will Levis is that guy. And then they have nobody. They have decent defense overall. I think that's what they can hang their hat on. They play good, tough defense. But they just make obviously Will Levis at the beginning of the season just making these stupid mistakes and late in the game to lose it. Yeah, I'd be worried if I was the Titans, especially with the Texans in the division and the Colts in the division. The Colts looked good this week.
They're a young team too.
Yeah, so the Jags are the Jags right now, but I'd be worried if I was a Titans fan for the future, for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Dealing with the Texans for that stretch is going to be rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah, so yes, I would be worried.
Okay.
The Jets are allergic to winning. apparently. Anthony Richardson, like I just said, in his first game back after being benched for Flacco, he has a great game. 272 yards through the air, 1 passing touchdown, 2 on the ground, including 1 with a minute left in the game to take the lead and beat the Jets on the road. Sell the team. I don't even know the Jets need to. They have one of the best personnel. Like we said in top of the morning news, like their roster on paper is one of the best in the NFL.
It really
can't
is.
figure it out. Like they have a good defense. They have weapons on offense. They got a nice young receiving core. Other than Devontae Adams, Brees Hall is like pretty much a receiver out of the backfield. They can't win.
I don't get it. I don't even have an answer. I didn't watch this game, so I don't know like specifically what happened. I did see some highlights of Anthony Richardson. He did look good, and a lot of that, he did show his dual threat, versatility in that game. And if he can develop, like I know a lot of flack has been on him, and obviously the tapping out in that one game didn't look good, but he's still a raw talent. He hasn't played a lot of quarterback at a high level yet. We're still waiting on that. He's very young, so I think the Colts have a bright future if they can get the most out of him. That's going to be the question mark. Obviously, like we just talked about, the Texans, you're going to have to play C.J. Stroud and that good coaching staff twice a year. So we'll see how the Colts look. But a huge win, I will say, in the Jets. I've been over the Jets since I don't even know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So, I don't know. Like you said, sell the team. I don't know. I don't know what to do. They need a new quarterback. Already that experiment's over. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can go right off into the sunset with his ashwagandha and mushrooms and go live in a hobbit house or something.
One thing I do want to say about Anthony Richardson is he needs to stop taking hits. He took a couple big shots in the game. Like one of the touchdowns that he had running, he just lowers his shoulder into a DB and flips over the goal line. Bro, just dive to the pylon or something. I don't know what. You're not a running back and you've been hurt your whole career in the NFL. Stop taking hits so you can be on the field.
If 6'5", 245 Cam Newton on his podcast is telling you to slide, you should probably slide. You should probably slide, because I've seen Cam Newton run over linebackers in the NFL. So let's please slide.
Stay on the field.
Let's move on to a fun AFC team. If you haven't been tuning in, Broncos country, let's ride. Them boys are good. The Broncos are good.
They are good.
I'm not going to lie. They're pretty good. They're not going to win a Super Bowl. They're not going to go to the AFC Championship game, but they've won 3 out of the last 5. And if it wasn't for a blocked field goal with some magic wizardry by the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid and, Taylor Swift whipping the witch's brew up, they'd have won 4 out of 5. But in those 3 wins, I will say one thing has been a consistent, and that, well, actually 2 things, but the main one is Bo knows ball. Bo knows ball. Bo Nix is playing really good. In those 5 games, by the way, which should have been, again, 4 wins of the 5, he has 10 total touchdowns, 9 in the air, 1 on the ground, and 1 interception, 70.6 completion percentage, and 106 pass rating in those games averages. That's very good, all things considered, from the rookie. I know there's been a lot of talks about Jaden Daniels. In the first 6 weeks, there was a lot of talk about Caleb Williams. But Bo Nix, I think in the first part of the season was just doing enough with their defense to, game manage and win. But now that the season's progressed, he is 45 years old and spent 12 years in college. But he's finally getting, a little bit of footing under him. I think him and Sean Payton, like we talked about in the beginning of the season, I think he's athletic enough. In that short passing game, I think he can execute well. And again, he has enough athleticism to make plays on his own. And they're rolling. They're playing good football, and I think kind of like the Redskins, or not the Redskins, sorry, the Commanders, I think they're exceeding expectations a little bit in Denver, because obviously coming from the Russell Wilson years, they looked horrible. They were kind of the Jets, where on paper the Denver Broncos were really good the last couple of years, but they never executed. And I think they're doing a lot better than a lot of people think. And like I was talking about, the 2 consistents, one of them being Bo Nix. The second one is that defense, man. The defense is 3rd in the NFL in points per games right now. They are led by Pat Surtain, but they got a lot of other players. They got some fast linebackers that not a lot of people know the names of. I don't even really know the names of some of these guys, but when you watch them, they fly around, they make plays, they don't make a lot of mistakes. It reminds me of the Vikings defense, or even Arizona a little bit. A lot of underrated guys just making plays, but This Denver Broncos team, again, they're not going to win a Super Bowl, but they're not a team you really want to play if you're just lackadaisically going into that game. You know, they're going to fight. They're going to compete. And then on the other hand, I'm done with the Falcons. I wish we had last Thursday's episode because I actually would have picked the Broncos in this. I believe I had it on my paper. I'm done with him. Kirk Cousins, I'm done with you. I'm done. Listen, buddy, it was a good career. You were Andy Dalton 2.0. You're Alex Smith 2.0. You're going to win some regular season games, but you're never going to make any splash in the NFL. You're hot garbage when it matters. You've lost 3 of the last 5, and the 2 wins you had were by 11 total points. Congratulations. You beat the Bucks with nobody and the Cowboys in the last 5 games. Like, if it wasn't for the Bucks being hurt, you'd have probably lost 4 of the last 5. So I'm done with the Falcons. They suck. Yeah, they're gonna maybe even still win the division. Congratulations. Like, I don't care about them anymore.
I just wanted to back up the Bo Nix stats. I really like how he's playing, like especially with just Cortland Sutton is like his biggest weapon. He's not like game managing again behind like a run game and like a bunch of weapons. Like he's actually getting it done with his legs sometimes when he needs to, and just being a dog in the like 70.6 completion percentage for a rookie with Cortland Sutton and what's Lil Jordan Humphrey is the other guy's name.
He had like a 80-some completion percentage this past Sunday, like 86 or 84. It was high.
So Sean Payton's really drawing up the plays for Bo, and that's kind of like the perfect probably coach for him coming in. Like he's like kind of like a Drew Brees-esque, like 2-step drop, get it out, and then like he also has some wheels, which Drew really never had, which is nice.
Yeah. They're a fun team.
They are. They're a good team. We'll stay in the division because the Chiefs lost. Finally. America can celebrate.
America can celebrate.
I don't have to hear about them being undefeated anymore.
72 Dolphins are popping champagne somewhere.
The Bills are a wagon. They look really good. But the Chiefs, of course, they get a bounce back against the Panthers this week because, of course, the NFL gives them the easiest schedule of all time. Patrick Mahomes only has 2 games this season where he hasn't thrown an interception. He has not looked good, and I'm tired of everyone making excuses for him. He has DeAndre Hopkins. He has the best tight end in football. He has the fastest guy from the draft, and everyone's like, "Oh, he needs weapons." Like, okay, like Kareem Hunt is a good running back to fill in for Pacheco. Like, stop making excuses for Patrick Mahomes. He's not having a great year. All right? Thank you. But the Bills, on the other hand, they look really good. Khalil Shakur might be the most underrated wide receiver in the league. He's third in the NFL in yards after the catch, behind Jamar Chase and Alvin Kamara. He's a playmaker, and he's stepped up huge for the Bills with Keon Coleman being obviously a rookie and being out for a while. Amari Cooper, it feels like he's still getting adjusted to the offense a little bit. I know he had a wrist injury coming into this week. Looked okay, but the Bills just kind of find a way to get it done every week.
Yeah, the Bills look good. I think what's scary for the AFC, if you're looking like, in the next couple of weeks here, if they start getting some big leads in the conference as far as like record, I know no one's going to want to go to Buffalo if they get home field throughout the playoffs. That's going to be rough for everybody. Obviously, Arrowhead is still a tough place to play come weather, but Buffalo is going to be very rough for some teams. Like I said, I keep saying it every week, but since they lost to you guys, kind of embarrassingly, they've buttoned up completely. Sean McDermott and Josh Allen have really, that coaching staff and the players, like you said, maybe not some big names. They, in the receiving corps, but these guys are just making plays. They have a really good tight end. Obviously, Cook does what he does, and like I say every week about the Bills, it seems like their defense continues to just get better and better as the weather gets colder and colder, and they get more time together. The Bills, man, I wouldn't be shocked if they take the top of the AFC this year. Just even though they might not even be the most complete team, on paper, but just playing well. They look good. They look really good. Let's move on. Let's talk about a fun duel of quarterback play that was happening. Joe Burr, Joe Shiesty, Joe Icy. Joe Frosted Tips continues to play great and lose. As always, it seems like the Bengals, they fall to 4-7. I think he threw for 18 touchdowns and 700,000 yards in this game. Again, um, unfortunate. I mean, it is fun watching him. It sucks that he's in the division, but when I watched him play you guys twice this year and against the Chargers, he is really good. I know he didn't play great in the beginning of the season. They tend to always start out slow, but Joe is still top 3 quarterback, top 4 quarterback, and you just gotta. Even though he's in our division, I hate the Bengals, but it's kind of sucks to see like him play that well, and they if he throws 6 touchdowns, they're gonna give up 7. That's basically what it seems like for the Bengals. But on the other hand, my sleeper team in the year, the Chargers, they improved to 7-3 after that. A little bit of a sputter in the beginning of the season. I think just with Harbaugh as a new coach, they kind of had that 3-4 week stretch where they lost like 3 or 4 games, but they win 4 in a row. And I gotta say, I haven't really said it much on the podcast, but I've said it over the years, and I will continue to say it. I don't care what anybody says. You all can whatever, but I will continue to say that Justin Herbert. If there was a draft in the NFL every single year that he's been in the league, I truly believe Justin Herbert would go in the top 3 picks. And I don't care what anybody says. This man had probably I think statistically the best start of an NFL season from a quarterback his first 3 years. And that was with a really bad head coach and coaching staff. Not great weapons. I mean, he got into to the Chargers with Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen at that point couldn't even, he was nowhere near the route runner he once was after those knee injuries. And he had horrible play calling and decision making from his coaching staff. He now finally has a good head coach. So I'm actually excited to see what he does. And they actually might win a couple playoff games here, in some meaningful games. But I will continue to say he's top 3 just as a quarterback build. And if he had some of these other head coaches or play callers or talent, like some of these other top 5 quarterbacks have, like if you put him on the Eagles, if you put him on the Bengals, if you give him some head coaches like Andy Reid or Sean McDermott, or even I know Harbaugh for you guys hasn't been loved this year, but I just think if he's had those key components, I think he'd get a lot more respect that he deserves. But like you talked about a couple weeks ago, Harbaugh. Coming into the season, I had a lot of expectations. I know he's flipped and changed programs. That's what he's done his whole career. He did it at Stanford. He did it at Michigan. He did it for the 49ers. And he's now doing it for the Chargers, like you said. And he's building a culture out there. And that defense is for real. They are not to be messed around with. And that quarterback and defensive combo, oh, man. Again, in the playoffs, they might mess around and shock some teams. Honestly, I love this Chargers team. I know they've had some ugly wins and some ugly losses, but when they could put it all together, that's a good football team.
I agree, and I think now they're kind of still chasing the Chiefs for the division. Like if the Chiefs drop 3 or 4 games to end the season, like they're right there with them as far as winning the division.
Yeah,
they still could, honestly, if the Chiefs not keep losing, but they have the easiest schedule, like I said, so they're not going to keep losing. But Chargers definitely not a team you want to see in the wild card if you're anybody in the AFC.
Yeah.
The Cowboys suck. Jerry Jones, they will suck until Jerry Jones sells the team, which
I was about to say
happen.
They need to sell that team.
They're going to suck until he dies. Unfortunately, if you're a Cowboys fan. The Texans looked better, I guess, and they played a really beat down Cowboys team. Their defense isn't good to start with, and then Cooper Rush. I mean, he threw for 450 yards or 350 against this defense, but he had to throw the entire game. I still think the Texans have a lot to prove. I think C.J. Stroud is kind of having a sophomore slump. He hasn't looked great. They only have 1 win against a team that's above 500. The Texans. So they're probably going to win that division, but if they play a top team, I don't see them winning 3 straight games against top teams in the AFC in the playoffs. But they get a win against the Cowboys, so congrats.
Yeah, I agree with the Texans. They still have yet to kind of, put it all together. I think their best like game, even though it was a loss, was that field goal game loss in Green Bay. They even though CJ didn't really play that well, but as a team they played well enough to win that game. But yeah, CJ again, I think he's gonna be really good, and I'm not gonna dog him too much for this year. I think this is still a great coaching staff, but he does have a lot to prove. I think the Texans overall, offensively, they have a lot to prove. Their defense, as long as D'Amico Ryans is there, they're going to have a good defense and well-coached defense. So not worried about that too much. And the Cowboys, like we said about the Jets to sell the team, the Cowboys really need to, like, I'm not kidding. They need a gut and, redo the entire team that starts from Jerry Jones all the way down to the bottom. Like they need a completely new look.
I did see Michael Irvin said if the Cowboys drafted Shadur, then Prime would come coach the Cowboys.
I did hear about
kind of insane.
I did hear about Sanders being the head coach for the Cowboys. That would be insane. That would be insane. I personally would rather see Dion move up to like a FSU, like an alma mater type of thing in college or something. But
I think he said he previously said that he would never coach in the NFL. But
yeah, I would love to see him at FSU. I know that FSU is probably not going to fire their coach, but that's more of a reasonable jump, I feel like. But hey, at this point, I hope they need something. They need anything at that point.
Kind of spark. I don't know. We'll see.
Terrible.
So let's look at our matchup of. Oh wait, no. We got to do our picks for this.
We got our picks.
Yeah, you're right.
We got our picks. We're not doing our pick results from last week because we didn't have Thursday's episode. So college and NFL, we don't have any picks results to talk about or go over. So our records are still the same from last Tuesday. I believe the NFL is very close and college is not so much in our records. But let's move on. Let's get it going with NFL Week 12 picks. I'll start it off because my Steelers play tomorrow night. We go to doo-doo Cleveland, Ohio. And I'm going to keep it short. The Browns suck. And we're looking pretty good as a football team. So I'm going to take us on the road.
I will also take the Steelers on the road. Jameis Winston's probably good for at least 2 interceptions in this one.
I actually wouldn't be shocked. Let's move on to the 9-1. Whoa, hey now. Kansas City Chiefs. They go to Carolina. Young has a rough day ahead of him with a good defense coming into town. I'll make this one short as well. I'm going Kansas City. Obviously, like you said, they get a bounce back game here, and yeah, that's just unfortunate for the Panthers.
Give me the Panthers here. No, I'm just kidding. Give me the Chiefs. They'll back and get a win.
This guy's out of his
against
mind.
The Panthers. The Vikings go to the Bears in a little
good game
division matchup here. The Bears looking for some kind of spark. Will they get it?
Nope. I'm going with the Vikings on the road here. I think the Vikings improve to, I think that's 3 or 4 in a row wins. And like I said, what is it, 4 weeks ago now that the Bears were going to win 2 games the rest of the season? Shoot, I might have even overstepped my boundary there. They might not win another game. I don't think it starts this Sunday. I think it's close. I think it's a division game. They got a good defense. They're going to, and the way Minnesota's been looking offensively, especially in the quarterback department, I wouldn't be shocked if it's close. But give me Minnesota on the road, my third on the road team here.
Yeah, I'm actually going with the Vikings as well. I think that defense is just going to be too much for Caleb Williams and that offense. If Sam Darnold just takes care of the football, I mean, they can kick field goals and win this game. Just don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Then we have another divisional matchup. The Titans go to the Texans. Tough matchup on the road here for the Titans.
Yeah. I have Houston written down, obviously, but I feel like it's a bit of a trap game here.
I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, if the Texans offense and CJ looks like how he's been looking the last month, it's going to be close. But if they can get it rolling, then it shouldn't be. But give me obviously the better coach quarterback combo at home in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Will Levis will probably do some Will Levis type stuff in this game.
I hope
Texans
he does.
Defense kind of flies around a little bit, so they'll probably force some turnovers and they'll get it done at home.
Yep, and then we got the wagon of the Lions. They go to Indianapolis, obviously coming off of a big win with Anthony Richardson's first game back. But unfortunately for him, that joy and happiness is going to last for only a week because they get the best team in the NFL coming into town. And I'm not putting money on Jared Goff this weekend, so he probably will throw 7 touchdowns in this game by halftime.
Yeah.
So give me the Lions.
I got the Lions too. Colts kind of stink, even though they just won. But,
I agree.
Another divisional matchup: the Patriots go to Miami. Kind of a stinker of a game. I don't know. It's okay, but I'll take the Dolphins in this one. Kind of a must win. They're still technically alive and they have a good roster, so they need this win, and I think they get it done.
Yeah, I have Miami written down, but I don't like it. There's a lot of close games, especially in like the last half of this schedule. So it's going to be some toss-up games. We got some good division games and really good NFC matchups, but I don't know why I'm leaning towards New England here. I don't know why, and I'm going to do it. I'm picking New England and Drake May for a upset. I think this is kind of one of those games where you just look at, and after the weekend's over and you're like, how the heck did the Dolphins lose to New England? And I hopefully will be on the right side of that one.
I like it. Switching up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we picked the same teams the whole time. So, yeah, spice it up a little bit.
I like it.
Moving on. We got the Bucks, the injury-depleted Bucks. They get Mike Evans back off of a bye week, I believe. So they go to the Pizzeria now led Giants at quarterback. And I'll make it short. Give me the Bucks on the road.
Yeah, I like the Bucks. It's always that new quarterback kind of vibe for the Giants. Like, do they just rally around Tommy DeVito? I know he had was it last year or 2 years? He had
some.
He had some.
He had a little bit of spice.
Yeah, and the Giants fan base just went crazy for him because they're like Upper New Jersey, so Tommy DeVito's like a legend.
Yeah.
Do they get some of that spice? Maybe, but I think the Bucks get it done. I think they're just a better football team. I like Baker Mayfield a lot.
Yeah.
Then another divisional matchup. A lot of divisional matchups late here in the season. The Cowboys go to the Commanders here. I'll keep this short. I got the Commanders. The Cowboys are dead. Sell the team. Commanders. I think they'll still be fired up for this one. Just because Dan Quinn is a good football coach, and the Cowboys just suck. I don't even know what they are. If you're on the Cowboys as a player, how can you be motivated to play football?
I don't know. I'm with you on this. I'm keeping it short. Give me the Commanders at home. They're a 10-point favorite. I wouldn't be shocked if they cover it. I mean, the Cowboys are bad. Cooper Rush, Dan Quinn. That's a tough defensive scheme to beat. And a good defensive mind, so good luck to the Cowboys.
They'll just run it. Brian Robinson will have 150 yards against the Cowboys. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Then we have another divisional game, another stinker of a divisional game. A lot of division games this week, but we got – actually, I wouldn't say it's a stinker, but the reason it might be is because I'm going to keep it short. Give me the Denver Broncos on the road – against the Raiders. Again, just a good football team right now, playing really good defense. Bo knows ball, and Bo knows how to move that ball.
I have a bloody nose.
Oh.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry. I'm still here.
All right, thank you to our our hands-on medic.
I just started bleeding out of my hole.
That happens to some people on a monthly basis. So we are back though. I was like, he was sniffling over there. I was like, what is happening?
What the hell?
That air's getting a little dry out there in Baltimore.
A little dry down here.
Maryland. But like I was saying, give me the Denver Broncos on the road against the Raiders. and probably a pretty convincing win.
I also like the Denver Broncos here. I like Bo Nix, like we talked about earlier. The Raiders suck. Gardner Minshew, I believe, is still starting for them.
Not great.
Yeah, they're chalked.
Then we got a pretty interesting game here. Coming off of a loss to the Seahawks, San Francisco 49ers, they go to Green Bay, who is looking not great, but not terrible. Kind of weird team, but who do you have in this one? Because I have no idea who I'm thinking.
I kind of like the 49ers here. I still think even though they're not looking like the 49ers that we're expecting, I think to keep their season kind of alive, they need this win. I think the Packers they're not going to win the division, so I don't think this is like a must win, like let's get up and get after it for the 49ers. I think the 49ers show up. Christian McCaffrey hasn't really had that big game yet, and this might be the week he has a Christian McCaffrey late game. So give me the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way as well. I have San Francisco written down in this game, not really like, must win. They just came off of a home divisional loss. And I mean, to stay in the wild card hunt, I think they're like 5-5 right now or something like that. They really need a win here. This team is not 5-5 like on paper. And I don't really trust either of these teams, but I haven't been super high on Green Bay. I'll go same. I'll pick San Francisco on the road. It's close, which is crazy, but I'll take San Francisco on the road.
Yeah, I like them. Another divisional matchup.
Kind of a banger in a weird way.
Huge game for maybe the biggest game in Week 12 this week. The Cardinals, the first place Cardinals, go to
crazy.
The Seattle Seahawks in a big divisional matchup. Who do you have in this one?
I have a question mark next to Seattle's name, so that's another game where the next remainder of this games we're going to talk about. I don't even know where to go with these. I'm leaning towards Seattle at home, but I did say I think in Tuesday's episode of last week or recently that I'm kind of done picking Seattle at home. But I lied. Give me the Seahawks at home. Hopefully the 12th man shows up. I kind of need a win here. You know, they also are like Sanford. Like this whole division needs wins. And, you know, I know Arizona's leading it at 6-4, but it's not by much. They're a game or two ahead. And it's a big game. This might be Seattle's season, really. And they need to win it. So give me a team that should win the dang game. The Seahawks.
I'm on the same side. I agree. I think they get some motivation from that last second win in San Francisco this past week, and they carry that over at home. I think, like you said, I think the stadium will be rocking. This is a big divisional game, like for their season pretty much. So I think they get it done here. Yeah.
And then moving on, we got another NFC matchup. Some bangers here the last couple of games talking about. We have the Eagles, the 8-2 Eagles going to the Rams on the road. Kind of a big game for playoff implications, especially for the Rams. I think the Eagles should have the division down the stretch. I think they might take control of it over the Commanders, even though I think the Commanders are going to beat the Cowboys this week. However, I don't think the Eagles are actually going to beat the Rams on the road. I know this on paper they should, but I think the Rams are a tough team to play on the road. Stafford's coming off of a couple of good games in the last, I'd say 4. And I'm just going coaching staff here. I think I trust Sean McVay more and that coaching staff over Nick Sirianni. I know the Eagles have been playing well. Honestly, this is kind of a toss-up to me. I really think this game could go either way. I'm going to take the home team like the Seattle game, but I would not be shocked if Philly wins this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I was actually just waiting for you to pick because I was just going to take the opposite of what you
That's what I was going to do if you went first.
I need to just catch up to you, so I'm going to take the Eagles and just hope they pull it out against the Rams.
Yeah. Good game though. These
Yeah.
are the last 4 games are all really good.
And then this is our matchup of the week on Monday Night Football. The Ravens go to LA.
Let's break it down
LA.
before we make our picks.
I get to suffer on Monday Night Football watching the Ravens game again.
my
So
gosh.
I'm sure this game will come down to the last second because the Ravens will make mistakes the entire game and keep the Chargers in it. The Battle of the Harbaugh Brothers, Volume 2 in the NFL. Last time these two brothers were coaching against each other, the Ravens won a Super Bowl, and that will be the last Super Bowl for John Harbaugh, the way this team just chokes every season. This game could have playoff implications if they're both fighting for a wild card spot at the end of the year. The specific matchup against the Chargers, it doesn't really matter for the Ravens because you never know what you're going to get from them. If we don't turn the ball over or kill every drive with stupid penalties, we'll score 35 points. And if we don't do that, we will score 18 and just somehow be in the game at the end of the game. So the Ravens just need to not beat themselves like they do every week, and they'll win.
Those are all great points. We got a big AFC matchup, like we said, on Monday Night Football. This is going to make my Monday a lot better because the Steelers should be coming off a win against the Browns, and I get to watch 2 of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL play. So this is good. This is a clash of offense versus defense. Again, the Ravens, they come into this game with the number 2 points per game offense in the league at 30.4. They're behind Detroit. And then the Chargers come in with the number 1 points per game defense. So this is quite literally the classic unstoppable force meets a immovable object. In the Ravens are the unstoppable force on offense, and then the Chargers defense is that immovable object. Like I said, 2 of the best quarterbacks to do it right now, which is a huge, reason, or I should say a huge key matchup in this. But like I said, my number 1 matchup in this game is that Ravens offense versus the Chargers defense. For either side to win, I think it literally comes down to the run game of Baltimore and Derrick Henry. I think if y'all can establish the run and not play from behind and get Henry going, get Lamar in those play action where he's able to execute to guys like Andrews and Flowers and, all the other guys. When he's able to utilize his strengths in that offense and Derrick Henry's running the ball well, you guys usually play well and win. And then obviously, that opposite end of the spectrum for the Chargers is if they can force Lamar to play a little bit from behind. I know Lamar's a great passer, but this team is definitely built to run the ball, play good defense, and kind of keep away. If they could do that, they'll take the Chargers fans out of the game. They'll kind of slow the game down, quiet the game down. But for the Chargers, if they can kind of stuff Henry early with that defense, if Herbert, we all know throughout the season, you can throw the ball in Baltimore. If Herbert can execute early and they get out on a lead, they can kind of, lend themselves into playing more defensive, maybe more predicting of the Ravens offense a little bit. So I think it just comes down to line of scrimmage and Derrick Henry in the run game. I think if Baltimore can execute well, they have a shot to win. If the Chargers can stifle it a little bit, then they have their shot. As far as who I'm picking, I think this is another of the last 4 games we just talked about where it's really a toss-up. I'm leaning towards the home team. In a sense, I don't know if I like the Chargers defense more or your guys' offense more, but what I saw from our game, I think the Chargers have a very similar style of defense, and it's at home, so I'm leaning that way. So I am going to pick the Chargers. But again, just like the Philly game, just like the San Francisco game and the Arizona game, I could see either team winning this. I just think the Chargers are a little bit hotter right now. And yeah, that's literally it, just because they're at home, really.
I'm picking the Ravens because I like torturing myself.
That's fair. That's fair. I think it's a great game either way, though.
Should be a good game.
It's a great game.
It'll
A little
definitely
bit.
come down to the last 2 minutes like it always does with the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good prediction, I feel like.
Let's get into our power rankings for week number 12. There's a new number 1 team.
For
Thank
both of us.
God.
There
And
is
it's
a
the
new
Lions.
number 1.
Of course, they are the best team in the NFL. They've been the best team in the NFL for the past 5 weeks. It's just the Chiefs were undefeated, blah, blah, blah. Now they're not. Now we can put the Lions up there, number 1.
Yeah, I have Detroit at number 1 as well. At number 1 at 9-1. They move up 1 spot from. We're going on 2 weeks now because we didn't do last week's power ranking, so we're jumping from week 10, I believe. So, but they move up 1 spot for me. Obviously, they are just killing everybody. It seems like so.
Yeah.
The Lions at
They've
1.
been dominating. I have the Bills at number 2 here. Obviously, they knock off the Chiefs. They've been playing really well. I like Josh Allen. He's a dog. Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with you. Our 1 through 3 are the exact same. I have Buffalo in the number 2 spot as well at 9-2. Like I say every week since that loss and that shellacking by you guys, they've looked like a completely new team. And they're rolling. They're rolling. They just beat the undefeated Chiefs in a pretty good game. You know, it was pretty close until obviously Josh Allen kind of closed that game out with that touchdown run. And yeah, I like Buffalo a lot. I love their coaching staff and Josh Allen, and it's a good football team. Good football team.
I have the Chiefs at 3 here. They should be lower, honestly, but I'll give them at 3. They got 1 loss, so.
Oh God, yeah, I have the Chiefs at 3 as well. I don't think they should be much lower. They're 9-1. They still, in my opinion, are the best coach in football, and that defense is still good. I mean, I know that they gave up, I think, 28 or high 20s or maybe 30 against Buffalo, but until the last 2 minutes, they held Buffalo to 23 on the road. That defense is still very good, and they got some great players on it. So give me the Chiefs at 3 at 9-1. They fall 2 spots though.
Yeah,
they do fall 2 spots now.
I actually have the Eagles coming in the 4 spot. I think that defense is kind of coming into form. The secondary has been playing really well the past couple weeks, and then the offense is obviously high-powered with Saquon, with A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts is running, he's throwing, he's running for I think he has like 6 touchdowns the past 3 weeks, running the ball. So I like the Eagles. I think they're a pretty complete team right now.
Yeah. I actually have my Steelers in the number 4 spot. They move up 2 spots from 2 weeks ago. And the only reason I have them here over my next 2, I feel like my 4 through 6, you could literally mix and match wherever you want, really. But I just think we have one of, if not the best defenses in the league. And it's important in the playoffs to have a good defense. Like that famous saying that defense wins championships. So give me my Steelers. I think us beating the Commanders on the road and then beating you guys at home, those are 2 very good teams, obviously very close games and could have went either way, but we do come out on top of them. And I'm putting a lot more trust in our quarterback than I recently have. Obviously, we've had to deal with Duck Hodgins and Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett for years. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Russ. Obviously, the interception last week was rough, but we're undefeated since he's taken over, and I trust him a lot more. And I think him and the defense will carry a kind of underwhelming coaching staff, in my opinion. So give me Pittsburgh at 4.
Yeah, I have the Steelers at 5. They just keep finding ways to win games. I mean, obviously the defense is probably best in the NFL, if not top 2 for sure. I mean, Russell's doing what he has to do to win games. Chris Boswell just makes every field goal.
Dude, that guy's insane.
Yeah, if they get to the 45, you're going to get 3 points. So, Steelers at 5.
That's a great point. I also think our offense is kind of coming into a little bit of its own with Pickens finally getting involved and Najee's running well in the last 6 weeks. So, but I have Minnesota at 5 again. You could throw Philly here. You could throw Pittsburgh here. You could throw any of these teams here. I have Minnesota over Philly. I have them at 5. And the reason is all these teams are the same record, but I just trust Minnesota's coaching staff more. I think just overall coaching staff wise, I trust them more than Philly's. Not quarterback play, but defensively and coaching staff wise, I do have Minnesota. They need to prove to me if Philly gets another huge win, especially if they beat LA or the Rams in LA, and Minnesota has another kind of meh win against Chicago after losing 4 in a row. I'll probably bump Philly up because they kind of deserve it. But just overall, I trust their coaching staff more. That's why I have them at 5. And they do fall one spot for me. Not that they've lost, but just the way they've looked. I think they fall down one spot for me.
I have the Ravens at 6. Obviously with 4 losses, the only team with 4 losses in my top 10. They just beat themselves. It's just the same story every year. Like, they're so frustrating. If they were just disciplined and just didn't like have stupid penalties that just get them out of big play. Here's a penalty. Here's a flag. It's just the same stuff every year. They could easily be a top 3 team if they just were a disciplined football team. Like, I just want a new head coach at this point, I think, is what we need. We need some kind of culture change. Like, we have the personnel to do it. We have one of the best quarterbacks. We have statistically the best running back in the NFL right now. Our defense is kind of not that great, but the best run defense. There's no reason we should have 4 losses. The Ravens are at 6. I think they can beat anyone, and then they can also lose to anyone. So I don't know.
That's a great way of explaining it. I have the Eagles at 6. That might be kind of too high for some people, which I understand. They are 8-2. They're looking good. Again, the coaching staff, I'm not a big fan of it, but they are continuing to get, convincing wins. Again, they got a tough matchup here on the road against the Rams, so we'll kind of see how they look. But they move up 2 spots for me at 8-2. Still a really good football team. Again, I said my 4 through 6 you can kind of mix around. Honestly, my 4 through 7 you can kind of mix around, to be fair. And I think the only edge I have over them, over Baltimore, is just the fact that they, like you said, aren't making those mistakes, I guess, in a sense, and just they look like a more complete team. So I have Philly at 6 in my power ranking.
I have the Vikings at 7. They are 8-2. Just like from the eye test, just watching their wins the past 3 weeks, like they haven't looked good. Yeah. It's fortunate that they've been playing the AFC South those 3 games because they kind of stink. But if Sam Darnold can just take care of the football and not make stupid mistakes, they're a good football team. I don't know. I just need to see like a convincing win again from the Vikings to bring them up. But they're at 7 for me.
That's fair. I have Baltimore at 7, at 7-4. Like, they are my second. I only have 2 teams with 4 losses in my top 10. It's hard to keep Lamar out and Derrick Henry in that offense out. It's second points per game in the league for a reason. Like you said, stupid mistakes. Could have easily beat us on the road. Could have easily beat Kansas City. Could have easily beat the Raiders, the Browns. Whatever the case may be. Could be 11-0. Could be 0-11. I mean, crazy. Still, I can't leave Lamar or anybody out of the top 10 like that. And I mean, the big game. If you guys beat the Chargers on the road, that's a huge momentum for the team. I know the locker room probably feels the same way as every Baltimore fan, even me being a Steeler fan. You guys should not be 7-4, but you guys are. A lot of teams can say that they shouldn't be what their record is, but they are. And you guys have a tough game on the road, but you'd like to see it. You guys are playing a good AFC team on the road. You'd like to see them beat a good AFC team on the road. But I have them at 7. They do fall 2 spots for me, but I think I think you guys will be all right.
I don't. But the Packers coming in at 8 for me. They get They got to win. Say a good win, but they got to win. They are 7-3 now. They're kind of like, I'm like waffling over the Packers. Like, they keep winning these close games. Are they going to continue to do that? I don't know. Big game. I feel like this is a big game for them this week against the 49ers at home to see what they're really about.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have the Chargers at 8. I didn't want to put them above you guys, even though I think in the last 4 weeks they've looked very good as a team. They haven't really played anybody, I would say, too much as far as like super good teams. So they got a big test. Obviously, you guys coming into town. Big win, or big game, I should say. If they do win it, that would be a huge kind of statement for Harbaugh, Herbert, and that team as a whole. Again, big, like you said, big playoff implications. So, I had him as a sleeper. I don't really like have too much emphasis on this game. Like, it's not a must win, but if they do win, that would be huge. But I have the Chargers moving up into my top 10 for the first time in a while, and they jump right to 8 for me. They're a good football team.
I have the Commanders at number 9. I still think they need that like statement win.
Yeah.
I think I said that the past few weeks. I think they have one win, maybe not even one win against a 500 team, above 500 team. I'm not sure, but I know it's not more than one. Jaden Daniels has looked okay the past couple weeks. He's obviously not as hasn't had the hot start that he had at the beginning of the season where he was just throwing for 250 and running for 100. Slowed down a little bit. I need to see a little bit more to put them in the upper echelon of teams, but I still think they're a good football team. That coaching staff and the defense is solid as well.
Yeah, I have Washington at 9 as well. They fall 2 spots for me. Again, we've talked about it all year. They're way ahead of schedule. I think the fact that they've been consistently in the top 10 of our power rankings like every week is just impressive enough. Still a good team. I think they improved to 8-4. I think they destroyed the Cowboys. They're a far better team. They're way better coach team. And I think just as Washington alone, like whatever they do, they've already exceeded it. So whatever from here on out, if they make the playoffs, or if they squeak out a playoff win or something, it's all just, a cherry on top at that point. So I think them being at 9 is fine. Again, like you said, they haven't looked great, but they've lost to some good teams in that mix. So, being a rookie quarterback, I'm not even, I don't even have too much negative to say about them at 9.
I have the Chargers coming in at 10 for the first time, cracking the top 10. If they would have beaten, they were up like 3 scores on the Bengals in the first half, and then if Evan McPherson kicks a field goal at the end of the game, they probably lose. They blow a huge lead. If they would have kept the pedal down and just blown the Bengals out, I might have had them at 9 or 8. But Evan McPherson misses 2 field goals in the last 4 minutes, and they lose by 3. So I like the Chargers. I think they're good. I like Jim Harbaugh, obviously. I like Justin Herbert. They have a good running game, a good defense. So they come in at 10 for me.
Yeah, I have Green Bay at 7, at 3, at 10. Kind of a weird team. You could kind of put them anywhere in 7 through 10 range, I feel like. But just overall, they've kind of reminded me of the Texans where nothing is pretty. They're just kind of winning or losing, and it's just weird. They're a team that I kind of need. This is a big week. They have a huge game against San Francisco, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm not considering it a must win because I don't think they're going to catch Detroit. I think Detroit is just too good, but kind of a must win for playoff implications as far as just keeping it in the race for the NFC wild card. So we'll see. We'll see how they look, but I got them at 10. They fall 1 spot for me this week, but those are our power rankings going into NFL Week 12.
Power. A lot of teams on a bye this week. It feels like not a lot of games.
There is a lot of teams on a bye. We have 6 teams on a bye. We got Atlanta. Thank God the country has celebrated and not have to watch them. The Bills get a nice little rest after just dominating the last 5 weeks. The Bengals are on a rest. Maybe Joe Burrow can find a new home, and maybe he can go play in the Candle League. The Jags are on a bye. The next 3 teams, the Jags, the Saints, and the Jets, are on a bye week, and the NFL fans do not have to watch any of those teams play. So we are all grateful and thankful. 6 teams on a bye, and 4 of them are horrible. So thank God.
So we're switching up a little bit this week for the bets because it's Wednesday. Underdog's not giving us a lot of props to work with here.
I got no props, man.
I have props to work with, but you can still use code WOOD on Underdog for $1,000 deposit match. So do that.
Please
do that. But we have some bets against the spread that we are picking this week. Well, 5 of them are against the spread. One's kind of like a pick 'em, but I'll start it off. Seattle moneyline versus Arizona. Kind of a must win for maybe both these teams. Not really Arizona as much as Seattle. I think Seattle gets some momentum coming off that big win against the 49ers, gets it done at home against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like that one. Moving on, we got my Steelers. They go to Cleveland again tomorrow night. I'm picking them at -3.5. I think of Cleveland's last 4 losses they've had, they've been by more than 4 points. So I think we're going to win that game at least by 7. The Browns stink, and they don't match up well with a good defense, and we have a really good defense. So I think we just create turnovers, and we actually will score in the red zone tomorrow night. We kick 18 field goals against the Ravens. Hopefully we can score the ball against the Cleveland Browns. They're not as good as a defense, so yeah. I like that.
Like the Pittsburgh defense anytime touchdown, I'm sure is probably
that might hit.
It's hitting
in the first half.
Then San Francisco going to Green Bay. They're getting 2.5 points. I think they win this game outright. Give me San Francisco and a little 2.5 point cushion if there's a late field goal to win it or something.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Give me Detroit -7 going to Indy. I don't even think that's enough. Detroit has won too many games by way more than one possession, and Indianapolis, I'm glad they're coming off a win, but give me Dan Campbell and that coaching staff, that defense against a rookie quarterback. I don't care if it's in Indianapolis. It's not going to be fun for them. I think they cover.
I do as well, and I think a lot of Detroit fans are going to make that drive to Indiana, and it's going to be almost a half and half in that stadium, and it might almost be like a home game for them inside. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Then the Bucks -5.5 against the Giants. They get Mike Evans back, and I think he swings that spread. If they didn't have Mike Evans, they might be 3.5 point favorites. But I like the Bucks to get back. I like Baker Mayfield a lot. Tommy DeVito is gonna have some struggles. He's starting for the first time. Give me the Bucks. I think they win by a touchdown.
Yeah, I think Mike Evans scores 7 points on him on his own. Yeah, so. I like that a lot. Tampa Bay, I think they cover easily. Bowles will have something for DeVito. He'll send him back to his pizzeria. Last of our against the spread picks.
Most, but it's fine.
Listen, you got to just believe sometimes.
I believe.
Okay, we had some debates on the last pick. Okay, we're either going to take the Titans,
pick Miami to win this game. You picked
I picked Tennessee. So this is actually...
No, you picked the Patriots.
I was talking about Tennessee. But yes, I picked the Patriots to win this game. And like I said...
Honestly, I hope I'm wrong. And I hope the Patriots win.
Well, even if Miami wins, I think Tennessee or New England covers the spread here. So give me New England +7 on the road against Miami. Miami hasn't looked consistent all year. Yeah, they won 2 in a row. Congrats. They've had some bloopers and some and I actually like Drake May. I think he can move the ball and keep it close with Miami. Even if Miami wins, give me New England to cover. Even if it's a 3-4 point game, I don't think they're going to win by a whole possession here.
I like that.
I think they could definitely keep it close enough to, even if they lose it. I think they're going to, I don't think Miami's covering 7. So those are our against the spread picks. Again, a little different than our underdog. I know we were hot on underdog all year. You guys are cashing out every week, but we had to switch it up. There weren't enough props, so those are hitting though.
That is, if you parlay all of them together, I think it's $10 to win 400-ish, I believe.
Which is what I will be doing. So, yeah.
Let's talk about college football. We're done with NFL for the day ish. We had over/under reactions later, but let's move on to some college foosball.
Probably my favorite thing to talk about and watch this year, honestly.
Couple big games. Georgia gets it done. Your favorite team. They get it done against Tennessee in a must-win elimination game, pretty much for Georgia. But
I will actually give credit. I'll knock people when it's deserving, and I will give praise. I think Carson Beck looked good in that game. I think he threw two touchdowns, had a decent amount of yards. Tennessee was in that game up until, late in that game. They had what seemed like 8 possessions in the second half of doing absolutely nothing. I know they have a freshman quarterback who's going to be a problem for the foreseeable couple of years. So that's awesome. But Tennessee, I know it was in Georgia. I know it was an away game, but they had plenty of opportunity to not only tie that game late, but to maybe even win that game. But Georgia plays well. Their defense has looked good in the last month. So give credit to them. Oregon squeaks out a win against Wisconsin in Cheeseland. Only win by 3. Don't have that offensive explosion that we normally see from Oregon. They are still undefeated. That's huge in the Big Ten right now. But yeah, kind of a lull game. I actually didn't even watch this until late. I tuned in because I didn't even expect it to be close. But yeah, they get a little bit of a scare there on the road.
And then BYU,
no
longer undefeated. They lose to Kansas. And
how are we losing to Kansas, guys?
They drop 8 spots in the playoff ranking here.
Not
Big
great.
12.
Not great.
Opening the door for Prime.
Colorado, Buffalo, give me a break, bro. How do we lose to Kansas, man? That's a basketball program.
So those are kind of the big games that we had this past weekend.
Golly,
so we're gonna look at not at the 8. We have both of them pulled up, but the top 25 and then the college football playoff rankings, which is now more important, obviously, than the AP top 25.
Yeah, we're going to stick with the playoff ranking because that's really all that anybody needs to care about now, because every Tuesday night they release these, and this is literally what we will now go off of for the foreseeable rest of the season. For the playoff ranking, let's start in the top 4. I think since we covered this last time, I have no complaints other than Penn State. Oregon at 1 is fine. Ohio State, in my opinion, still might be the best team in the country overall as a roster. Texas still leading in the SEC, and then Penn State, I don't see them as the 4th best team in the country. But other than that, I agree completely with 1 through 3. Again, Oregon kind of had a bit of a scare, but I think every team's had a significant lull loss or just a scare this year. So no team has really gone, away from that. So I agree with 1 through 4, except for Penn State.
Yeah, I agree with the same. I don't think Penn State's a top 4 team, but 1 through 3 I agree with.
No movement either in that 4.
Yeah, no movement.
Then moving on, we have our 5 through 12. This is literally our playoff. I believe this is actually completely done. Now, this isn't how the bracket would work. We would have to look that up as a,
There isn't a Big 12 team in the top 12 right now. So
that's right.
That conference would still get a spot.
Okay, so that would be,
It would still be BYU technically right now. It's going to be whoever wins the Big 12 championship will be most likely the highest ranked champion. So
5 through 12 with BYU in is our temperature gauge on the playoff. We have Indiana sitting there at 5, undefeated, which we will actually break down a lot of these games. Again, this is looking back on last Saturday, and then we'll look forward. But Indiana 10-0, sitting at 5. I like them a lot as a team. I think a lot of people are overlooking them. Notre Dame, I've been dogging them all year. They've looked better, obviously, since losing to Northern Illinois. I still don't think they're a 6th best team. I can't really respect a team that has no conference, regimen. They don't have to do anything in a conference. They're not obligated to play anybody. And then you look around in the SEC and SEC team. Texas is playing, Georgia plays Ole Miss. Alabama plays LSU. The SEC is just a powerhouse, and Notre Dame has no obligation to complete, schedules like that. And it's really frustrating. So I don't really see them as a 6th ranked team. But overall, I think the rest of the list I completely agree with. Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee. The SEC is packed in this top 12, and I respect it.
Yeah, I mean, I get Indiana is 10-0, awesome. I think they lose to the next 6 teams on the list if they played 10 out of 10 times.
They're not losing to Notre Dame.
Yeah, they are.
They're not.
Like I would put them like I don't know at 11.
Really?
Like I don't
Yeah,
think they beat an SEC team. Um, I
that's
also
fair.
don't trust Miami against an SEC team. To be
I,
fair,
I don't trust our defense.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like against Georgia or Ole Miss, like Ole Miss is scoring 80 points, and they have good defense.
Yeah.
I don't know. The SEC is just a powerhouse. Just, I mean, I know they have 2 losses, but like a lot of the SEC teams have 2 losses, but that's to other teams in the SEC
That are
they
really
lost
good.
to.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like they can switch it up. I get their records and how they're basing this off of, but like I think Notre Dame, obviously, you probably agree with me, of course, that they should be a little bit lower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. It's fine.
I will say for the next 2 weeks, what goes on in the SEC and then going into the SEC championship game is going to be kind of bananas. I know Texas has kind of solidified the number 1 ranked right now. I don't think they're going to fall off that. I don't really think they play anybody else. And their only win was the worst game they've played. I know Georgia won, but they should have honestly still somehow even squeaked that game out. But the SEC as a whole, like if Texas wins the SEC, let's just say they win the SEC championship and they're solidified as the number 1. What they do with Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Ole Miss is going to be kind of crazy because I don't think all of them get in. I don't think they put 5 in the playoff, but it's going to be really interesting to see. They should. They definitely should. I think all those teams, even Tennessee.
I think strength of schedule should matter a lot.
It should, but I don't know what they're going to do because you obviously like a BYU or Colorado is going to. I can't even believe I'm saying. BYU is going to get in, and then Boise State obviously will probably remain undefeated and get in, and then after that, I mean, it's going to be real interesting. I don't know. It's going to be exciting 2 weeks. Exciting, and then going into the SEC or the conference championship game is going to be crazy.
Like I think we'll talk about it a little bit, but if Indiana loses to Ohio State like 50-7, like do they deserve a spot in the playoff?
I think that people will make a good enough argument. Well, we're going to break that down in a little bit, but I think people will make a good enough argument to say no because they've only
because their strength of schedule, like the only
horrible.
Good team they played is Ohio State, and they got blown out.
Yeah,
like I don't know.
Moving on to 13 through 25, I'm going to kind of only keep it in like the 13 through, I'll say 20 range, but some big playoff implications and conference championship implications sitting here. We have SMU at 9-1. They're at 13 in the ACC. BYU does fall 8 spots. Kind of weird that they fell that far because Kansas playing Colorado. Colorado's only like a 2-point favorite in that game. So maybe Kansas, they know something that we don't know about Kansas. But they fall 8 spots. Texas A&M doesn't move. I don't believe they played. And Colorado moves up 1 spot. They're creeping in there in the Big 12. And then we got Army. Undefeated Army. They got a big game.
I want Boise State to lose. And I want Army to beat Notre Dame. Actually, I don't even think it matters if Boise State wins or loses. If Army beats Notre Dame, they will be in the playoff at the 12th spot.
We'll see. Yeah, that would definitely be better than any of Boise State's wins. But Boise State's only loss was to 3 points at Oregon.
Yeah.
Kind of impressive. But Army can definitely beat Notre Dame. And I'm not just saying that just for fun. This Army team can move the football. They did have a lull against North Texas, but that might have just been one of those Saturdays, hopefully. But they can move the football. Again, Clemson sitting around there, could Clemson make a push to get in the ACC championship game? They really need to rely on us or SMU kind of folding in the next 2 weeks, but I don't see that happening. But maybe we might get a little surprise Army, a little service academy.
That would be lit.
Representation in the in the playoff. But that's mainly all the important stuff. BYU, huge game. Army and Notre Dame, huge game. Obviously, Indiana, game of the program's history, maybe.
Yeah.
So we got some big games going on. Let's talk about those games.
Let's talk about them.
Let's break down some of those games.
Let's talk about our picks for the week.
Yeah, let's start off with our matchup of the week. We're going to save the pick for the breakdown. Big game, big Big Ten matchup. Number 5 plays number 2. Excited about that. Excited to talk about that. Again, a lot of noise going into that game, so we'll break that down. Let's move it on.
Colorado.
Oh, God almighty.
Big game against Kansas. Kind of a must-win if they want any chances at the playoff, I believe. I guess they could still win the Big 12 if they lose this game. But Colorado goes to Kansas, I believe. Yeah, how you feeling about this one? I know you're going to pick Kansas.
I really want to. I really do. Kansas upsetting, obviously, BYU. Colorado has looked significantly better in the last 4 weeks than they did at the start of the season, the first 4 or 5 weeks. They've beaten some, I don't want to say impressive teams, but they have beaten a Cincinnati. They have beaten some they've had some good wins. I could see them losing to Kansas, but I've picked against them so much and I need to catch up. So I'm going to pick Colorado in this game on the road. But I could see they're only a 2-point favorite for a reason. Vegas knows something about Kansas that I don't. And it might be because a lot of teams overlook Kansas and they've been in some games and they actually beat BYU. And I personally think BYU is a better football team than Colorado and they beat them. So, we'll see, but I got Colorado on the road, but wouldn't be shocked.
I also like Colorado here. I'm going to pick Colorado. I think their offense, they have a better offense than BYU. Kansas does have a good defense, and I think BYU's defense is better than Colorado's, but Kansas has a pretty subpar offense, good defense. Colorado has their defense has been playing okay, I guess, but I think their offense is going to be too much for Kansas. Kansas held BYU to 16 points, I believe. I don't think Colorado is they're going to score more than 16 points on anyone. So I think Colorado wins.
Yeah, keeping it in the Big 12, our second top 25 matchup. We have BYU, number 14. They go to Arizona State, 21 ranked Arizona State University. Tough that they have to face another team on the road. But they need this win. They need it. I don't think it's not a must win, I think, to make the Big 12 championship game, but a big win for the rankings and, and stuff like that. So I think BYU bounces back. Obviously that loss was kind of ridiculous. So give me BYU on the road to take care of business and continue to stay ahead in the Big 12.
I'm gonna pick the Sun Devils in this.
This guy's out of his mind.
I think BYU's they've been a good football team, but I just think on the road, ASU. This is Arizona State's Super Bowl, if you will. They won 3 straight. They just beat Kansas State. They're on fire a little bit. Give me the Sun Devils to take down BYU.
All right, bro. This guy's crazy.
Come on, baby.
Oh gosh.
And then we got maybe the second biggest game of the week here. Army,
Yeah.
number
Undefeated.
19, undefeated Army goes to Notre Dame, number 6 Notre Dame on the road. Big time matchup. Who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I was wrong. This is actually our third top 25 matchup. I forgot that we had this. Realistically speaking, Army's offense is going to need to win this game for them. Obviously, that's been their bread and butter all year. The last 2 games, they haven't played well offensively. I still don't believe in Notre Dame as a team. Luckily for the Irish, it is at home. God forbid this team had to play some conference games on the road that meant anything, but they don't. Just for my mental state, I'm going to pick Army on the road because if they win, I will be the happiest person ever. Likely Notre Dame wins this game, but Army's offense can do it. They need to play well in this game. And, I haven't watched too much Army this year, but if there's an upset this week, I'd love it to be this one, obviously. So give me Army.
I'm picking Army with you.
Okay.
Come on, Army. Let's get it done.
Ooh,
Hey, bro. Come on. I like
Okay.
I mean, I think Notre Dame's going to win this game, but I'm not picking against Army. I'm not picking against Army.
Yes.
Let's go.
For the Service Academy. Do it for one time.
Do it one time.
Moving on, we got Texas A&M number 15, kind of up and down season. They had two losses that if they didn't, I mean, this Texas A&M team is a good football team. Yeah. Unfortunately, they lost week 1, which was huge, and then they threw up a stinker, I think, for their second loss. But they go to Auburn, and the spread is very close. Very close spread here. SEC matchup. Always tough games. Florida, Auburn, some of these teams in the SEC, Kentucky, that aren't ranked. They're much different than other conference games because of just how good the SEC is as a whole. But give me number 15, Texas A&M to win. Unfortunately for them, they're gonna go into this end of the season with probably only 2 losses and not really sniff the playoffs. Or they are a good football team. I like them a lot. I like their coach a lot, and I think they take care of business on the road against Auburn. So give me them.
Yeah, I like Texas A&M as well. They had that bad loss against South Carolina.
Yeah.
But South Carolina is kind of an underrated football team. They've been underrated all year. Auburn is not an underrated football team. They are not that good. Give me Texas A&M on the road.
Yep.
And then we have Alabama versus Oklahoma here.
Get pissed by number 10.
Number 10, baby. I'm going with Alabama. Keep it short. Oklahoma just doesn't have an offense, unfortunately. Their defense is good. I could see them giving Alabama some struggles, but I think Alabama's defense just dominates in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Give me number 7, Alabama on the road. They're coming off a huge win against LSU. They kind of dominated that game. And I think overall, Alabama, for going into the playoff, they have the head-to-head against Georgia, which is huge. I think they kind of need a big win here, kind of a dominating win for the committee to be like, oh, Alabama's for real, Yeah. And they're making some strides at the right time down at the end of the year. That's when you want to start playing your best football. And if Alabama wins convincingly, I like their defense against a true freshman quarterback. I do like Oklahoma as a team. They have a true freshman, so the future's bright for them. They just need to get that offense going. They need to kind of get an identity and a scheme behind him. But obviously, Alabama I think they're going to win, but I'd like to see them win convincingly here. Like I said, the strides to this is when you want to play good football. A lot of teams in the SEC are trending that way. Georgia's looking better. Ole Miss. Alabama needs to continue that. So give me Alabama on the road. I think in like almost a 3-possession game here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That's our picks for the week. Some good matchups. We got 3 top 25 matchups. Huge. I think the next 2 weeks is just we'll call it SEC Central. Watching all these SEC teams play, it's huge implications, and I think they're going to be the favorite to have the most teams represented in the playoff. So it's going to be big to see what these teams do. But with that being said, 3 of the 4 top teams in the country, they're Big Ten football teams now. They're Big Ten football teams. And our matchup of the week is a Big Ten matchup. Let's break that down. We got number 5, Indiana. They go to Ohio State, their biggest game of the season. And probably one of the biggest games of the season. We have another Big Ten matchup in the matchup of the week. We had it with Ohio State, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon. The Big Ten's had some bangers. And we get another one at noon again. Why is this game at noon? Why have the last 2 top matchups of the week in college football for the Big Ten been at noon?
You get the Big Ten. What is that, Big Ten noon game of the week? Something like that special. I don't know.
I don't know what's happening, but we get another. We had it with Ohio State and Penn State, and I wish this was a night game. This deserves to be at 7:30. I think Columbus would be rocking It's still going to be. The Buckeyes, the reason is because they got a good football team. The Buckeyes come into this game with the top 10 offense and defense in the country, in the FBS. That's huge. And they are beating teams with the second best scoring margin at 28 points per game on the season. They can play offense, they can play defense, and they kind of win convincingly. Again, their only loss this year is to at Oregon on the road in a game where it could have been gone either way. And Oregon's a good football team. Tough task for Indiana. There's been a lot of noise about this Indiana Hoosiers team. They travel into Columbus on Saturday. That place is going to be rocking. I don't care if it's at night, if it's at 10 in the morning, 10 at night, it don't matter. That place is going to be loud. Big Ten matchup. They know what the stakes are, so the fan base is going to back their team up. And Indiana, everybody's talking about it. Let's talk about it. They've only played like one team with a winning record. That was Washington. They did kind of dismantle Washington. But I will say, of all the noise about this team, I'm on the bit of the other side of the argument in this one. And the reason being is because, one, the schedule's out of control, out of the head coach's control here. These schedules are usually made in a year. Sometimes some of these games are even made 2 years in advance. So they play who they play. And with that being said, it hasn't been that they just won these games. Indiana, they've been destroying teams, and I know they haven't played anybody, but a lot of these other teams, like in the SEC or the Big Ten, they've played some of these lull teams. Like look at Oregon. They play at Wisconsin, they almost lose. Indiana's not had a close game all season, and I know they haven't played anybody, but they've been taking care of business by a lot, like a huge point margin. And you could say that they haven't played a lot of teams, but for a team to win that convincingly all season, that's not a fluke. They're a well-coached football team. I'm suspect. The only thing I will say I'm suspect of is their offense with the quarterback. I don't think they have a top guy per se, like some of these other teams like a Jackson Dart or a Jalen Milroe or a Dylan Gabriel. I don't think they have that, but they have the coaching staff, and they've been taking care of business all season. I know a lot of noise has been talked about them, but I don't think it's warranted. I can understand if they've been winning by like 5 points, 7 points, 4 points. They've been killing teams. The key matchup in this game, obviously, is the Buckeyes offense and this Hoosiers defense. I think that the defense for Indiana has been one of the strong suits of their team, and it's been one of the main consistents of their team all season, especially against the best teams they've played, who have been Washington, who have been in Nebraska, and some of the other teams are only giving up 13.8 points per game as a defense. That's huge. Again, you could say that they haven't played anybody, but they're not just squeaking by any of these games. They are dominating teams, and they look like what a top team should look like when they play bad teams. They've done it all year. They've literally not had a close game. I think their closest game was Michigan, and that Michigan team played out of their mind when you look at what they've looked like all season. So that's impressive to me. But this Ohio State offense, that's a unit. They got a lot of good players. They have a fifth-year quarterback in Will Howard, and when they're on, they're on. I mean, they're a great offense. They're a great team. This is, in my opinion, this is my national championship winner. This is the best all-around, I think, roster in the country, in my opinion. But one side note, just to put into perspective of why you can't just say that they haven't played anybody, is because Indiana, this Nebraska team that should have beat Ohio State in Columbus, it was a 3 or 4 point game, and barring a mistake, I think they could win that. Again, 4-point game in Columbus. Yeah, this Indiana team beat them by 50. So again, I don't think this Indiana team's a fluke. I know the strength of schedule is not great. And as far as picks, I'm going to go with Ohio State in this one because it's in Columbus. But I don't think it's going to be like you said earlier. And the question is like if it's a 57-3 or 57-10 game. I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't see that happening. I think this will be like a 7 to 10 point game. And I think Indiana is going to show a lot of people that they're not a bad football team at all. And I think that just is a testament to their wins and how they've won. They haven't squeaked by anybody. And again, they beat the same Nebraska team that should have beat Ohio State by 50. That's not a fluke. But give me Ohio State at home. Kind of a big win. You can't really – I don't think you can lose this game as Ohio State to have 2 losses. I know their only loss on the season is Oregon, but kind of a big game. I love this matchup. I think this is going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think, and a lot of people are giving Indiana credit for. So I'm excited, and kind of sucks that it's at 12, but I'm excited for this one.
I'm also excited for this one. I'm a little bit like I agree with a lot of your points, but I'm a little bit more on the Ohio State side. I think Indiana's Cinderella run is kind of over right now. I've been enjoying the ride. Don't get me wrong. I love the story of this team. I love Kirk Cignetti. I love what he's done with the program.
Yeah,
But I think it's coming to an end. Um, like you covered, they have been blowing out teams in the Big Ten, like the bad teams. They are 10-0. They play who they play. The best team they played is the 5-5 Michigan Wolverines. They won by 5 points.
yeah,
They barely have a quarterback. Now they travel to Columbus and play the wagon that is the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think it could get ugly just because of the Ohio State defense is serious.
they are
Not
good.
including the Oregon game. They've allowed 61 total points to opposing offenses in their 9 wins. That's an average of 6.7 points per game if you don't include the Oregon game. Indiana has a solid defense as well, but against somewhat of a weak schedule. I'm expecting Will Howard and the boys to get after it against this defense, and I think Indiana's going to have some struggles scoring the football. But like I said earlier, if Ohio State blows them out, there has to be a real conversation about if they should make the playoff. That'll be interesting to see what the committee does. But I'm also on Ohio State in this one. I think it's a 13-point spread. I think it's a 2-possession win for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think depending on like turnovers, like if that Indiana Hoosiers come into this game and they let the environment get the best of them, they turn the ball over and they maybe let the moment get a little bit too big. I could see that it being a blowout. This Ohio State offense will capitalize on that. But I don't see that with Kirk Cignetti. I think he's going to have them prepared. They play really good buttoned up football. But the implications of this game and the results of them will dictate a lot. If Indiana wins, then everybody knows they're for real. If they lose close, then they're still for real. But if they do lose big, then we will have to have discussions on their season and strength of schedule and all that noise. So a big game, really big game, especially the results and how it plays out. But again, I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be a great game.
I also think Ohio State's kind of been hearing the noise about Indiana. Like, I think this would be more of like a trap game if Indiana had like 1 or 2 losses and then they come in like just not caring about the playoff and they could beat Ohio State. But I think Ohio State's going to be ready for this game. I think they're going to be fired up for it, which makes it even harder for them. And I think the atmosphere is going to be loud. I think Columbus and the Buckeyes are going to bring it in the stands as well.
They usually do. Indiana's going to have to quiet them quickly to take them out of that game. So big game, big result implications. Excited to see how that pans out on next week's episode.
Yeah, so let's wrap up the episode with the over-under reactions here.
We don't have an overreaction Tuesday anymore. We got overreaction Wednesday. We get a couple of days to sit on some of these decisions and topics. We get to marinate about what's been going on. Let's start it off with something I haven't said in probably since 2017. And that is, Jason, are my Steelers Super Bowl contenders? Maybe not winners, but could they get there in the AFC?
I think they could.
Wow.
I don't know. Like, it's hard to see, like, if they play the Bills and then the Chiefs, like, back-to-back weeks, do they, like, beat them back-to-back weeks in the playoffs? I don't know. Just because, like, the defense is obviously there, but are they going to score enough points against the Bills or the Chiefs? Like, if the defense has, like, a touchdown, I don't know. Like, I think they are, like, can they make the Super Bowl? Like, yeah, of course. I think they can. They're going to make the playoffs. I think they're like 99% chance to make the playoffs at this point.
For a team that hasn't won a playoff game in 7 years, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but, like, you have a quarterback that has won playoff games now.
Yeah.
And he knows what it takes to win playoff games and win a Super Bowl. And the defense is good. I don't know. I don't know how to say like over or under reaction. I think this like Super Bowl contender, like, yeah, I think they are
Okay.
at this point. I think that's an underreaction.
That's fair.
I just like the Bills. Like the Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs in the playoffs, of course, and then
The AFC's tough. I mean, you have good teams that are like the Chargers, you guys. They're not sleepers, but just they're good. There's good teams.
Like I think you
in
guys
the
have
AFC.
to keep winning and have like 2 home playoff games, and then it's like okay, like that's like obviously like going to Pittsburgh and playing in front of that crowd is hard to do for anyone.
Right.
But if you have to go on the road to Buffalo, that's going to be tough. On the road in Kansas City, yeah. So
Yeah. I agree.
The Cardinals,
Hey now.
are they going to win the NFC West?
Hey now. Are they going to win the NFC West? I like that it wasn't worded as could they, but are they? And I think with that, I think it's a slight overreaction. Slightly. Not that this is a bad team or anything, but I just think I trust the 49ers too much. They've given me too much in the last 5 years of going to 2 Super Bowls, being in the NFC Championship game, what feels like every year. I trust their coaching staff more. I trust their roster more. They have a tough game in Seattle. Arizona does. They're only like a game ahead in the division, so it's not like they're 8-2 or 9-1. The Rams are starting to get it rolling a little bit. I think this division is still up for grabs. And with that being said, I know that the Cardinals are still playing better than some of these other teams, but I just trust some of these other teams, roster and coaching staff wise. But I don't necessarily think it's outrageous to say, but I do think it's slightly a bit of an overreaction just because the division itself is so weird. All the teams are close. All the teams are good. And there's not really been a definitive, team to show like, oh, we're gonna run away with it or anything. So I think anybody could win this division, really. I think the Rams could easily win it. I think the Seahawks, the 49ers. So it's hard to say that they will win. Could they? Yeah. I don't think they will, though. I trust the 49ers the most as far as coaching staff and roster when they get healthy. Seattle can do that. And then the Rams, sleeper a bit. I think they're kind of similar with the Cardinals. So I think it's a slight overreaction.
Okay.
Let's move on to my favorite team. I was really happy at the beginning of the season when they were like terrible in the start of the year. They barely beat like North Dakota State. And I was like, oh, this team's going to win like 5 games this year and nobody cares about them. Well, they proved me wrong. I'll admit when I'm wrong. Is it a bit fluky? Maybe, but it's still is set in stone right now. Colorado, do they somehow win the Big 12 and get into the college football playoff now that BYU wants to lose to a basketball program?
I think this is an underreaction. Unfortunately for they just need to not lose and they're in the Big 12 championship. So can they win it? Yes. They can win the Big 12 and be like a 4 seed if they win the Big 12 because they're a conference champion.
That would make me throw up. On this podcast, I would throw up. If hey, listen to me. You know that challenge I sent you, that sardine challenge?
Yeah.
If they get to a top 4 seed,
no.
I will do that challenge. I swear I will do it.
Say less.
I don't care. I can't stand this team.
It's
not that I don't like them. They just shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be in this situation.
Should they?
No.
Why not?
They suck.
They don't.
I know. But they should.
They should suck, but they don't. All right. This Lions team, just looking over at their history of the Lions teams in the past. This Lions team this year, is this the best team that the Lions have ever had in their history?
So I'm not
Barry Sanders, Matt Stafford, Calvin Johnson.
Yeah. So when Barry was there, they were horrible. Obviously, he literally ran them in the playoffs one year. The best Lions team that I can recall before like this era of Dan Campbell there was a Lions team with Stafford, Megatron. They had, I think, Ndamukong Suh and a good defense, and they lost to the Cowboys in the playoffs on some fluky flags. and it was one of the best Detroit teams that I had seen. I think since I started watching football, and they lost to the Cowboys, where they were kind of a favorite to make some splash in the playoffs, and a lot of people were saying it was the year for them. I can't remember what season it was. I want to say it was like 2012.
Was it the Triple Crown year with Calvin Johnson?
It might have been. I remember just they had a good defense. They had a good couple pieces in the secondary. They had good linebackers. I'm trying to remember them all. It's very hard to remember. They had a linebacker with like a really big beard, and they had a good deal. They were a good team. This Detroit team was really good, but they lost to the Cowboys in the playoffs on some fluky stuff. Is this the best Lions team ever assembled in history? I'd have to say this is an underreaction. This is a good football team, man. I'm not familiar with them, in the black and white days. I know they had some really good teams, but that's prehistoric football. I know they won a couple of championships, I think, in like the 40s and the 50s, but that don't count. Yeah. As far as I've been watching, and I'll say of modern day football since the merger in 1975, this has to be the best Lions team that they've ever had. So I'll go underreaction. They're number one right now in the NFC. They look like the best team in football. There hasn't been too many, even that playoff run where they lost to the Cowboys in the 2010s, I think, they were never quoted as the best team in football, I don't think. So, yeah, I'm going with a slight, not a slight, this is an underreaction. This is a great football team. Let's move on. Let's keep it in the same division, the NFC West. A lot of topics and talking points with this division. Kind of fun to watch. The 49ers, okay? Let's break down the 49ers, Jason. Did the 49ers miss the playoffs this year? Coming into the season, and like I said, overall, the last 5 years, they've always been one of the best teams in the NFL. Let's go over their schedule very quick. And do they miss the playoffs? So this Sunday, we talked about it, one of the better games. They go at Green Bay. Tough game, good team. Then they go at Buffalo. Back-to-back rough games. Then they host the Bears. Think they can get a win there. They host the Rams. I think they can get a win there. They go at Miami. Don't like Miami. Then they host Detroit, the best team in football. And then they go at Arizona. Not a fun schedule down the stretch here. So the question being, like I said, do the 49ers miss the playoffs? Kind of a shocker.
It is a shocker. I'm going to go with a slight underreaction.
Ooh!
Slight overreaction because I think they do make the playoffs.
Okay.
And it's because of the division. I think they still this division, that Cardinals game at the end of the year could decide.
Literally made the division.
Because the Rams are 5-5, the Seahawks are 5-5, and the 49ers are 5-5. So it might come down to who wins that division because the Vikings are 8-2. They're probably going to get a wild card spot because they're probably not winning the division. The Lions are going to win the division. The Packers are 7-3. They're not going to win the division, so they're going to probably get a playoff spot.
Commanders
and Eagles, whoever wins that division, the other one's probably going to get a wild card spot. So I don't know if anyone in the NFC West that doesn't win the division is going to get in. But obviously they're still alive. But they're going to have to win some big games. They're going to have to win one of these big games against the Packers, Bills, Lions. They can't drop those three.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to get some big wins.
To put it in perspective also for the 49ers, this year in the division, they're 1-3.
Yeah.
In the division. They lost to the Rams, they lost to the Cardinals, and they've split with Seattle.
Right.
Not great. Not great. Not great in the division, especially with the remaining schedule.
Okay.
I kind of agree with you, though. I think they can get in. I think they could do it. They just need to lock in here down the stretch, down these last 5-6 games. They need to lock in.
I need to bring up
last 7 games. Sorry.
Okay. Last question.
Oh boy.
Bo Nix will win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Let me break some stats down for you real quick.
Okay.
So, Jaden Daniels has a 68.7% completion percentage. Bo Nix 65.5, kind of right there. Jaden Daniels 2,300 yards, 2,338 yards. Bo Nix, 2,275. Right there. Bo Nix has 14 touchdowns to Jaden Daniels' 10. He has only been sacked 18 times, I guess. That's not really a quarterback stat. It is, but it's not. Jaden Daniels obviously better on the ground, but he also has one less game than Bo Nix. But Bo Nix is kind of catching up to Jaden Daniels. Can he win the Offensive Rookie of the Year? Or will he win the Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Will he? This is actually a good question. I actually like that these two are kind of neck and neck as far as stats and in the race. I will say I agree with what you said. Bo Nix is kind of picked it up here, I will say, in the last couple of weeks. Overall, I feel like it just kind of it's going to be decided on like record, really. The Broncos being 6-5, not terrible, but the Commanders being 7-4 and up there in the race for the division. I think it just leans more to helping Jaden. I think Jaden still has played better overall at quarterback play. I'm surprised the completion percentage is that low because he's been having really great completion percentage for a rookie. In the remaining of the schedules, I'll say I don't know the remaining of the schedules for the Broncos, but regardless, both division games, obviously the Washington Commanders have far better chances of beating the NFC East games versus the AFC West. Especially if the Broncos have to play the Chargers still, the Chiefs. I think the Raiders can even be a little bit. I know they play them this week, but I think the division is far harder to compete in. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Commanders get a better record. And I think the Commanders will make the playoffs. I don't think the Broncos will be a playoff team in the AFC. So with that, I like that it's close, but I'm still giving the edge to Jaden. But that's nothing against Bo Nix. So I'm going to give this a little bit of an underreaction. Or I'm sorry, an overreaction. Jaden Daniels has been playing amazing. Again, he's a couple of plays away from being. They're 7-4. They could easily be like 9-2. In my opinion, great coaching staff. I think Jaden Daniels deserves it still. But again, that's not a knock on Bo.
For 5-6.
What is it?
I said they could also be like 5-6.
Yeah, they could. They could technically. I think Jaden Daniels is playing slightly better, and I think he's going to take his team to just farther in accomplishments this year. But Bo Nix is playing well, man. I'm glad it's close. And I'm glad most of the rookies, even though the Bears have lost 4 in a row, but Drake May, Caleb, all these guys, Anthony Richardson, has a good game. Well, he's in his second year. But overall, I think it's a bit of an overreaction. But I like that it's close. I think Bo Nix is playing well. But I'm just going to give the edge slightly to Jaden Daniels. I think just because of them making that playoffs. Bad Bowl.
That's the episode.
That is the episode. That's our first Wednesday episode. Again, we're combining both episodes into one. Easy for us. Hopefully easier for you guys to watch because it's just all in one episode. You guys can kind of skip around and watch whatever you're interested in.
Thursday. You can watch it on Friday.
You can watch it on Thursday. Saturday. You can watch it after we beat the Browns on Thursday Night Football if you want.
Good.
But those are our power rankings, our picks, our recap. Exciting stuff. Again, college football getting down to the wire here. Got some big games coming up. Is Indiana for real? We're about to find out. I don't know. Some teams making some strides at the right time here. Buffalo picking it up. The Eagles looking good. Steelers winning.
Ravens sucking.
Ravens might pick it up when they need to. We'll see. They got a big game. A lot of big games. A lot of huge NFC matchups this week in the NFL.
Hopefully these losses just callous them for the playoffs. That's what I need from them.
Hey, losing is the best teacher.
It is.
Like Yoda said, failure is the best teacher. He said that to Luke Skywalker. Maybe the Ravens have watched Empire Strikes Back. Hopefully. And maybe they're gonna pick it up. But that's the episode. If you put in that bet, by the way, against the spread bet, that's hitting. And that's our episode. We got big games again. College football coming down the wire. NFL slowly getting to that. We're right into the thick of things. Weather's crisp. We're in November. We got Thanksgiving coming up. We got Thanksgiving. We got food, football. I mean, I get a week off of work next week. I'm having a great time. Also, it's his birthday.
It is.
I forgot. Happy birthday to Jason, by the way. I totally forgot about that.
It's okay.
I'm a terrible friend.
I'm old.
He's 30, even though he looks 20.
I look 20 million.
So this is great. This is a good week. We got Thanksgiving coming up. Holiday season is full in effect. Christmas music has already been blaring. Decorations around the house. I mean, he lives in the North Pole right now.
It looks like it.
So
toys in here.
This is great. Great time to be alive. We're in the thick of holiday season, football season. Basketball is underway. We got that rolling. Golden State, by the way, looking pretty good. Is Steph Curry the MVP of the NBA? Maybe. We'll break it down. We'll talk about it next week, next Wednesday. We'll see you guys. We appreciate you watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know anything, really. I don't care if it's football related, sports related. Just tell me what you're feeling. Tell me if you're happy, if you're sad. How's school going if you're in school?
How you doing?
What's your favorite Thanksgiving side dish? Because mine's mac and cheese. So,
that's my favorite side dish of all
ever. Mac and cheese, so good. But that's it. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys, and yeah, we'll see y'all when we see you. Peace.